In a rare and closely watched meeting, Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun and U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sat down face-to-face this week, sending a dual message to the world. The encounter, held in Beijing after months of quiet negotiation, came at a time of escalating geopolitical tension, from the Taiwan Strait to the South China Sea and beyond. What made this meeting stand out was not just its timing, but its tone. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell described the conversation as candid and constructive, even as he confirmed that Hegseth had resolutely protected U.S. interests. The paradox was striking: a dialogue aimed at preventing conflict, yet rich with warnings and unwavering red lines. To appreciate this. To appreciate the significance of this moment, it helps to recall how frayed U.S.-China military relations have been. After then-House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan in 2022, official defense dialogues all but froze. For months, the two militaries operated with minimal direct communication, a worrisome silence between the world's two largest armed forces. The first tentative thaw came in November 2023, when Presidents Xi Jinping and Joe Biden agreed in San Francisco to re-establish military-to-military contacts. This paved the way for sporadic exchanges at venues like the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore and a handful of virtual calls. Yet these interactions were limited and fraught, leaving plenty of room for miscalculation. Why do these conversations matter so much? Simply put, guardrails prevent disaster. History shows that even a small misstep, like a naval collision or a misunderstood radar lock, can spiral into something far more dangerous. Regular communication, even when it fails to solve deep disagreements, lowers the risk of a crisis neither side wants. From the outset, Minister Dong Jun wasted no time delivering Beijing's core message. Containing, deterring, or interfering with China will be futile, he told Hegseth. He stressed that China would never compromise on core interests, with Taiwan at the center of those interests. Beijing views any foreign support for what it calls Taiwan independence as a direct provocation. Hegseth responded in kind, making it clear that the United States does not seek conflict or regime change, but will resolutely protect its interests. He reiterated Washington's commitment to freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, a principle that has often brought U.S. warships uncomfortably close to Chinese-claimed waters. He also signaled ongoing U.S. support for allies and partners across the Indo-Pacific, leaving no doubt about Washington's regional intentions. Beyond Taiwan and the South China Sea, the two men also touched on Russia's war in Ukraine, where China's diplomatic and economic ties with Moscow continue to draw Western scrutiny. While the meeting yielded no breakthroughs, it offered each side a clearer sense of where the other stands, essential intelligence in a world full of sudden risks. The military balance between the two powers remains striking, though it is changing. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, in 2024, the United States spent an estimated $997 billion on defense, still more than 3 times China's estimated $314 billion. Yet the gap is narrowing. Back in 2012, China's military budget was roughly 1/6 of America's. By 2024, it had risen to 1/3. China's naval growth is even more dramatic. The People's Liberation Army Navy plan has already surpassed the U.S. Navy in the number of battle force ships, a trend analysts expect to continue well into the next decade. And in the nuclear realm, Beijing's arsenal has more than doubled since 2019 to reach around 600 warheads in 2025, with projections of 1,500 by 2035, a development that U.S. strategists are watching with mounting concern. The need for open communication is not theoretical. In April 2001, a U.S. EP-3 reconnaissance plane collided with a Chinese J-8 fighter jet near Hainan Island, killing the Chinese pilot and forcing the U.S. crew to make an emergency landing. For 11 tense days, the two countries teetered on the edge of a deeper crisis, largely because there were no clear channels of communication. Both sides today cite that standoff as a cautionary tale of how quickly misunderstandings can escalate. For now, the meeting is a positive sign. Simply resuming face-to-face dialogue after years of silence suggests that both Beijing and Washington recognize the dangers of accidental conflict. Even without concrete agreements, a better understanding of each other's intentions can prevent dangerous surprises at sea or in the air. Yet no one should mistake dialogue for détente. The fundamental disagreements remain unsolved. Above all, the question of Taiwan, which both sides privately acknowledge is the most likely flashpoint for any future confrontation. The United States continues to supply arms to the island under the Taiwan Relations Act, while China continues to build the capability for reunification by force, if necessary. The South China Sea remains another stubborn point of friction, with U.S. naval patrols and Chinese maritime claims frequently intersecting. Add to that the complex fallout from Russia's war in Ukraine, and the strategic rivalry looks set to endure for years, if not decades. Analysts caution against over-optimism. As one Asia-Pacific security expert put it, the talks were a positive small step, but there are many more steps to make, and the relationship remains fundamentally unstable. The takeaway: dialogue can buy time, but it cannot erase competing worldviews. The rare meeting between Dong Jun and Pete Hegseth encapsulated the paradox of U.S.-China relations today. Cooperation born of necessity, rivalry driven by ambition. Both sides know that communication is essential to avoid miscalculation, but neither shows any sign of compromising on the issues that matter most to them. As one seasoned Chinese strategist commented afterward, "When great powers speak, it is not to agree, but to avoid war while preparing for what comes next." In that sense, the Beijing encounter was a success, not because it solved problems, but because it kept the door open just wide enough to prevent the next crisis from slamming it shut.